What is going on, gang? Adam here at FM Immortal, here today to talk to you about our top 5 attributes by position in Football Manager 2023. So let's jump right into our first player position, and we are talking goalkeepers. And at number 5 for attributes that matter to goalkeepers, we've got one-on-ones. This is particularly vital if you're playing with a high line, because the AI's advanced forwards will tear you a new one if you haven't got a good score in this attribute. At number 4, we've got anticipation. Vital again for a goalkeeper to have good anticipation. It means they're ready for anything, and you're looking at least above 13 for this stat as well. At number 3, we have handling. So this is the goalkeeper's ability to really hold on to the ball, catching it from crosses and clearing the danger. The penultimate most important attribute for a goalkeeper is reflexes. Probably not a surprise, maybe it is a surprise if you were expecting this at number 1, but you are looking for ideally a 15 in reflexes with a top quality goalkeeper. By top quality I mean someone that's going to carry you to a title in a top division. And the most important attribute for a goalkeeper, in at number 1 we have aerial reach. Now, you can disregard the rest of these, you can have 20 in the rest of these, but if you do not have a significant aerial reach, I'm talking 14 or above, then your goalkeeper is going to concede basically every free kick that he is faced with, because he simply won't reach the ball, and it is, in my opinion, the most important attribute to look out for when you're picking your goalkeeper. Now, an honourable mention for goalkeepers that almost made the top 5 is positioning. Particularly early on in the season, I was noticing lots of goalkeeping weirdness. I don't know if that has been something that's been patched out by Sports Interactive on Football Manager 2023, but I was having players like Gigi Buffon, who plays for Parma in the second tier of Italian football. He was just everywhere in a really strange place. So positioning, I think, is one to look out for with the goalkeeper, to make sure that they don't have, in sweeper keeper mode, a mad moment. Up next we're going to be talking about centre backs, and in at number 5 for centre back is marking. Marking, obviously very important for a centre back or ball playing defender role. The whole premise of man marking a forward can help you negate the opponent's attack, but that is superseded by number 4 in my opinion, which is strength. So if your player does not have the right strength, and we're talking 14 or above at a good level, then he's just going to bounce off the strikers that he is facing up against, and you'll notice time and time again that even though they're positionally good, they're not getting any kind of tackle in, and that is going to cost you goals. Positioning is up next at number 3. Now this is similar to the honourable mention for goalkeeping. Defenders' positioning. Positioning is up next for number 3. Positioning is number 3, and that is similar to goalkeepers. It's something that you will notice if it's a poor stat. You are looking for at least 13 or above in this metric, and without good positioning across the board, whether or not you're playing 2 or 3 at the back, you are going to leak goals. In at number 2, it's tackling. So this kind of coincides with decent marking, decent positioning. You can have everything below, but if you don't have good tackling, you are not going to get the ball back. It's simple as that. You're probably also going to pick up a lot more cards, reds included, particularly when you pair that with 20 aggression. And our most important attribute for centre back, heading. You are looking for a heading stat of 14 or above at a top division, or 12 and above at a tier 2 team. And why heading is so important? It's set pieces, of course, because corners and free kicks are going to sting you if you do not have a centre back who can tower above the opponent's strikers and actually clear the ball. As an honourable mention for centre backs, I am going to throw in their jumping reach, because of course you are not going to win headers if you can't get the clearance off the ground. No offence, Lisandro Martinez. Up next, we're going to be talking wing backs or full backs, left or right. These are the top 5 attributes for that position. And in at number 5, we have marking. So it's an absolute disaster when you're attacking on the wings and you have overlap on and your wing backs don't know where to go when the turnover happens and your opponents are now ripping you asunder. So marking is key to wing backs tracking back and getting back into the right place in order to stifle the wide attack. Next up at number 4, we've got pace. So something that I always look for in a player, to be honest. It's one of the core attributes, which I'll get onto in a second. But pace is going to set your wing backs aside and help you create more attacks more often. In at number 3, we have tackling, and that is like a centre back. It's something that you just expect of a defender. And really for this one, you're looking at 12 at a good rate for a wing back. It doesn't have to be 14. It doesn't really have to be 12. If you're at top tier and they have everything else, I will forgive it. But for tackling, I would look for somewhere around the 10, 11, 12 region for a decent wing back. Our penultimate most important attribute for a wing back, dribbling. So if you are like me and you like to create goals from wide positions on Football Manager, then dribbling wingbacks is what you're going to be looking for. And a decent dribbling stat for a wingback on FM23 is around about 11. So if you put that in at a top level, you will pay dividends on the number of attacks you can create, because your wingbacks are your secret weapon. And that leads me nicely on to the most important attribute for a wingback, and that is crossing. Now, if you have a golden left back with 15 crossing and someone in the middle with 15 heading and decent jumping reach, you are going to score an abundance of goals from wide areas, crossing in to that middle target man. I promise you this, it is one of the most untapped resources in Football Manager, and there are some ridiculously good left backs out there on this game. As an honourable mention for wing backs, I'm going to put natural fitness up there. So if you can have a player with a natural fitness above 14, that's going to set them aside for me at this position, because they do tend to be quite a fragile player. Talking about your Reece Jameses, your Ben Chilwells, they're forever injured, but it's actually abundant in all wing-back positions across Football Manager from my experience. Next up, we're talking defensive midfielders. Now, in at number 5, we've got stamina. Of course, we want defensive midfielders, and particularly ball-winning midfielders, to be able to run for days. In at number 4, we have passing. So this is more of a deep-lying playmaker trait, but if you're decent defensive midfielder should have 12 or above in passing. At number 3, we have vision, and similar to the below, for a deep-lying playmaker, vision is key, and you're looking at something around the region of 12 or 13 for decent defensive midfielders or deep-lying playmakers. And our penultimate attribute is composure. Now this will mark how well the player can stand on the ball and not lose his rag. And essentially you will notice when you don't have composure more than you will notice when you do, because there will be balls played backwards, there will be balls played directly to attackers from any defensive midfield player that panics, and composure counteracts that panic, so it's a vital statistic for a good defensive midfielder to have. But not as vital as our number 1 trait, which is tackling, and it's similar to that of the centre backs. You can have a defensive midfielder that does all the right things positionally, is right up in the grill of all of the attacking midfielders, but if they can't tackle, they're either going to get a red card at some point during the game and put you under immense pressure, or they're just going to stand there and never get the ball back for you, which is kind of their job. So tackling at around a 13-14 level is what what I always look for in a decent defensive midfielder. So you'll have heard us talk about core attributes throughout this video already, but what do we mean by core attributes? Well, I'm going to show you. So we think that there are 10 characteristics of any player on Football Manager that need to surpass a certain threshold in order for them to be a passable footballer, not ridden with mistakes. Now, it will differ depending on what league you are playing in, where that threshold lies. If you're playing in the second tier of a nation, then you're looking at a minimum criteria of 10 for these core attributes. If you're at a Premier Division or a First Division, then you're more likely to edge towards 11, and if you're trying to conquer Europe, then that will jump up to 12. Why don't we make a game of this though? So pause this video here and see if you can guess what 10 criteria come into the core attribute marking at FM Immortal. So we're looking at a typical player profile here, a chap named Tormina, who is a centre-back at, I want to say, Braga. So let's get into what we consider to be the core attributes then, and these are in no particular order. But we're starting off with pace and stamina, vision and work rate, technique, acceleration, passing, concentration, decisions and determination. So ultimately, looking at those 10 core attributes, if they're below the level we were looking for, we would not entertain that signing. As for my evaluation of Tormina, well, I think he's got some great characteristics in the physical department, but for the value he's priced at, I just don't see him as a great signing. So our verdict on this one is a pass, particularly so though because his tackling is only based at 11, and obviously you've already seen for a centre back we value tackling and we need that to be around a 13-14 minimum. Don't forget to check out our channel if you like these scenario based would you sign this player questions, because we've got tons more, so get over to the channel and check that out when you get time. Now let's get back to our top 5 attributes by position. And next up we're going into centre midfield, and in at number 5 for them it's positioning, and this is key because essentially in transition a centre midfielder with weak positioning can be nowhere near where he should be. And of course there are so many roles that are played across centre midfield, and it's quite difficult to compare the effect that positioning will have on a box-to-box midfielder versus your standard CM or playmaking role. But essentially I feel this is a vital one if you want to hold a good shape. At number 4 we have another of the core attributes coming through in the top 5 attributes, and that is technique. Now I feel that technique sets aside decent to very good players, and a very high technique will essentially mean that everything your centre midfielder is attempting will come off. And yeah, you're looking probably at around a 15 actually for this to really find a golden nugget in midfield. At number 3 we have composure. This is kind of a repeat of what we mentioned for defensive midfielders, but essentially you do not want your centre mid, particularly when you're playing counter-attacking football, to get caught on the ball, and composure helps them keep calm, find that vision and use that passing statistic. And next up we actually are talking vision, so you are looking probably at a 14, 15, 16 for a centre midfielder. You really want these guys to pick the pass, switch the play and find that striker making the run. And they're not going to find him without the top attribute, which is passing. So pretty much a obvious result for centre midfield here, but the top attribute for me is passing. Next position we're talking attacking midfielders, so this could be your trequartistas, this could be your advanced playmakers or your standard attacking midfielder down the centre. And in at number 5 we have decisions, another core attribute but a vital one when the pressure is on, and the pressure is always on an attacking midfielder because they are the glue that holds the attack together. At number 4 we have long shots, and for me this is essentially the number of goals an attacking midfielder is going to get. Now an advanced playmaker will never take as many shots as an attacking midfielder. However, they will find the ball at their feet at the edge of the box or just outside the box quite often, and when the time is right they will be called upon to take a long shot. If this stat is 12 or above, it doesn't even have to be that high, you will score more goals throughout the course of the season. At At number 3 then we have dribbling. So this stat for me is a very important one for an attacking midfielder, because it can be the difference maker to see if you can cut through a defence. If they can't find the pass with the vision and the passing, if they haven't made the perfect decision for any which reason, they may still have the ball at their feet, and if they can't dribble, they're just going to lose that, and there's the turnover. So dribbling for me is worth paying attention to. And in at number 2 we have passing, so slightly less important maybe than a centre midfielder, but still a really important statistic for attacking midfielders, particularly advanced playmakers who are less inclined to shoot. But the most important attribute for an attacking midfielder is of course vision, because if they don't have that, they're not going to find the wide players, they're not going to spot the runs that are going on around them, and they're just going to lose the ball. Next up we have wing forwards, and in at number 5 for top 5 attributes for a wing forward, it is passing. Now this doesn't have to be anywhere near as good as the attacking midfielder's passing, but it can't be bad, and that is something that I see time and time again in otherwise decent looking wing forwards attributes. It's that they've got the full package, apart from the fact that they either don't like to pass or they just can't pass whatsoever, and I'm talking a stat of 8 or 9, something below 10 certainly. What you are looking to find here when you are filtering for your dream wing forward is a passing stat of 12 or above. At number 4 we have crossing, and really it's similar to passing, only that the performance rating of your wing forwards is often so heavily tied in with goal involvement that crossing for me is a very important stat to be good at. If they are not scoring directly, if they're not making those inside runs and you don't have an inverted forward for example, then you're going to want someone that can whip the ball in with pace and accuracy and find that target forward. So crossing for me, I would put this at a 13 minimum. The next most important attribute is acceleration. Now acceleration is the keystone for so many fundamental skills in Football Manager. Knocking the ball past the opponent for one example, but it also just means you get into the box and clear the defensive line quicker than anyone, and if you're making those inside runs, if you're an inside forward or an inverted winger, then you are going to really realise the benefit of having a decent acceleration, and by decent I'm talking 14 or above. In at number 2 we have finishing, and I have seen more wing forwards grab goals this year than any other Football Manager game, and I really think that that's part of the meta for this current game engine. So I would look for a finishing stat of 14 or above, because it really will set your team aside with regards to scoring goals, if indeed you are playing with a wing forward. But the most important attribute for a wing forward is always going to be dribbling. This year, next year, the year after that, you need a decent dribbling stat to carry the ball on the wing. If you're running at defence particularly as a team instruction, then this is paramount, and you will need at least 13, 14 or 15 in the top tier to really carry yourself forwards. And last up we are talking centre forwards. So in at number 5 for a centre forward we've got determination, and that one is another core stat, but this one for a centre forward means they will press and really try to get the ball when you haven't got it, let alone when you're pushing for a goal. It actually almost got higher up the list, but honestly there's so many important attributes for centre forwards. And in at number 4 it's off the ball. This is all about the movement that your centre forward is making, whether or not it's advanced forward, whether or not it's a pressing forward, it's everything that they do, and if they're doing it in the right way. So off the ball is so important, but there's even more important attributes. And at number 3 then we have pace. Now it's not actually the be all and end all if you have a slow striker who is ridiculously good at holding up the ball or heading it in or hitting those first time shots. But for the majority of tactics, pace at the advanced forward level at least is going to ridiculously impact the number of goals you score, because the number of different options that will create through runs made by the forward and the different balls that can be played into them is going to exponentially increase if they are quick. And the penultimate attribute for a centre forward is dribbling. So similarly to pace, if they can get the ball, they won't need anyone else around them if they're furthest forward and they've got a good dribbling stat to partner that pace, and that is going to unlock so many more goals for your club. But the one most important attribute for centre forwards, can you guess? Yes, it's finishing. Essentially, this can negate the rest. If they have 20 finishing and you can somehow get the ball to them, they are going to score you goals. So that's probably less of a surprise than anything else that's been on our top 5 attributes by position list, but let's have a quick recap as to what we've just gone through. So for a goalkeeper, we had aerial reach. For a centre-back, it was all about heading. For a wing-back, it's actually crossing. For a defensive midfielder, tackling. Centre midfielders, we had passing, and attacking midfielders, we had vision, before we got on to wing forwards with dribbling and centre forwards with finishing. And the core attributes as we went through, which is the stuff that you just want to be 11 or above for a decent player to have a very good foundation. Those were these 10: stamina, work rate, acceleration, pace, determination, concentration, decision, vision, passing and technique. But I hope you found this useful, guys. If not the actual results themselves, then the thinking process that's gone into them. Do let me know in the comments what you do agree with, what you disagree with, and what your top attribute per position would be if it's anything different to what's on screen here. I'd love to hear from you, and we want to improve at FM Immortal every single day, so let us know what you think. But that's all we've got time for today, guys, so please drop us a like if you can, leave us a comment as mentioned, check out our channel for more tips, tricks, thoughts and takes on all things Football Manager, and until next time, may the Football Manager gods be with you. Adios.